Please be seated. Routine proceedings. Introduction of bills. The Honourable Member for Fort Garry.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move, second by the member from Tyndall Park, that Bill 217, the Energy Efficiency Disclosure Act, be now read a first time.
Been moved by the Honourable Member for Fort Garry, seconded by the Honourable Member for Tyndall Park, that Bill number 217, the Energy Efficiency Disclosure Act, be now read a first time. The Honourable Member for Fort Garry.
Today I'm proud to introduce the Energy Efficiency Disclosure Act, a bill that tackles one of the hidden drivers of Manitoba's housing crisis, the cost of heating inefficient homes. Too often, renters and home buyers walk into a property with no idea how much they'll be paying in energy bills. This bill would require property owners to complete an energy efficiency audit and disclose that information upfront, providing an efficiency score and an estimated annual heating cost. This protects renters, empowers buyers, and gives builders and landlords a clear incentive to invest in energy-efficient upgrades. In the long run, this measure could make housing more affordable, reduce emissions, and create green jobs across Manitoba. I'm honoured to have Green Party of Manitoba leadership team members Janine Gibson, Dennis Bayomi, and Laura Potts in the gallery today to support this bill. Thank you.
Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed, and so ordered. The motion is accordingly passed. Committee reports. The Honourable Member for Kirkfield Park.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the third report of the Standing Committee on Social and Economic Development.
Your Standing Committee on Social...
Dispense. Tabling of reports. Nope, sorry, the Honourable Member for Kirkfield Park.
Honourable Speaker, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Tuxedo, that the report of the committee be received.
Moved by the Honourable Member for Kirkfield Park, seconded by the Honourable Member for Tuxedo, that the report of the committee be received. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed, and so ordered. The motion is accordingly passed. Tabling of reports. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased to table the annual report of the Manitoba Watershed Districts Program for 2023-2024 and hard copies of the audited financial statements as required by the Office of the Auditor General.
Prior to moving to ministerial statements, I have a statement. Ministerial statement. Before recognizing the Honourable First Minister, I want to take a moment to recognize this historic moment. As I mentioned earlier this week, this will be the first time in the 154-year history of this Assembly that we will be providing live, simultaneous interpretation of an Indigenous language to members in the Chamber and those participating virtually during our proceedings. As your Speaker, I believe this is a very important step in advancing the Assembly's commitment to reconciliation. I would now like to draw the attention of all honourable members to the West Message Room door, where we have with us Elder Dr. Ellen Cook, who will be providing the interpretation from Cree to English today. Elder Dr. Cook is joined by her apprentice, Miranda McLeod, who is learning to be fluent in the Cree language. We welcome you both to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba and thank you for the historic service you are providing today. For those watching the broadcast, interpretation is currently only available to members. And I would also advise members that the interpretation is available through the same earpiece we use for interpretation of French. The Honourable First Minister.
Opika squel, manitoma squagi sakao no gum. Ni paskon a noch kagiskak, ta witaman, metatat, ka itakemit, sakipakawe pesim, omagi sakao, spirit bear day. Ka iske, kiske ne hitchika tek, e kiste nit tekwanik, mena e kiskis, sinani wanak, Jordan River Anderson. Opimatizi winio. Egwa opiniga tek kiskeneta moen oasa sakwe ask ta pa me ichik opimatizi winawak mina metone ta kistenikanak Jordan's principle. Owe na pe sis Jordan kinoseo si pikoche Norway House Cree Nation. Spilka nitawakit misiwe ki ise animetau Miziwe eke etaspenit kape matizit akusiwe kamikok ki kanawenimau. Inamwach oche kasketa chik ta etasawe chik huena ta tibaige stamawat kisaspin ki bagitnit tagiwet. Canada kichi ogimanak apo Manitoba ogimanak. Ina eke ta seotame anwe ta kik ta tiba egesta mwachik opa mehewe winyo. Ekwane mwach oche kiweta how Jordan. Eteta ki kana weni mikot mina tege setoska kot onikekwa owichisana owagamokana mina take wichi igot owichi eninima. Makaka pe ese chimas neko pimatizi wen ki bemewa akosiwe kamikok, espe kapone pimatizit. Ki wan stani wan Jordan's principle wana sawe win. Kechnach ininiwe awasasak koesk ta pimaichik. Kakinauge kwan ese na te wet nita kik pameteske wena ta miskik. Ta giskine chik ka tek wena ta tiba egesta maket. Awasase pamihiwe win oche. Omagi skau, kiga giskis now, mona eneboko wana swe win. Oche. Waka ininiwe, awasasak sa kochta otita kik, pimaiwe win, kwa wechi iwe win. Ka ese not to win it, kik mona ena yatao. Ta anwe ta kek ta wichi iwe chek onika niwak. Omese ta still Jordan's principle. Mona beyak oasis ta kakwata kitao mina mona beyak ta wenekisto ta wow beyakwan ta ase pa miyao. Ta scotch kotakiyak oasisak. Koesk otitaki wewen ta kiskenita kek oasisak. Ta kistene me chik, ta meno pima a chik kape, mino yawen, siche, nekanatis, ta takosi wen ta wapa ta kek kape. Eze, kistene ta kwak Jordan's principle, apo Jordan River Anderson opimatazi wen kiskosi wen. Boko ta kanawab matamak, manote wek, ka kipe oteneske chik, ekwa anehe, Kagi nakatamaka kiyak boko metoni soka tamamowe atoska tamak kwesk tapama chicken iniwe awasasak. Mona no tagoesk taganawe ne chikate neke otenenasko sewene wawa. Opikisquel. Oma ka na kiskimak nistanao skill aspin kagi nakatasket Jordan. Kistene takwenel o kiski siwen o pimatiziwen ekwa kitastota masao tato wa sisko westa etota wa yak Mana chi'iwewen, equa minwatisiwen, asache kiziwatisiwen onche. Kawapaten now, osa ta tisiwen now Jordan, owagama kana, inigok kagi otaskata kik, kuesta itasta niwak, ininiwe owasasak pami iwewen. Kagi kich na helchik, mona we kach, kotak ininu ta ita patak. Kagi ita patakik winawao. Kinanasko mitnawa, kaki minayak Jordan, otachimowen. Equa owinowen. Mina wa kotiwen ta wiskini chikatek. Mina ta mino wichiwiato yak. Asichimena. Niwi kiga yenihita kohanan Dr. Cindy Blackstock. Kagi wapatak Jordana. Kagi ispanihikinit. Kinwe shego atoskata koesta esepe mahachik ininiwe owasasak. Dr. Blackstock ike nikanaskak. Ege kichna hot ta eske atoske makak omawi chiiwewen. Miziwe ota Canada. Ta astek tibaigewen. Gakena owasasak koesk ta pima ichik. Jordan, kikistenita ko hitanan. Egosane, kinanas komitna. Kegi noa, gakeno, kinanas komitna gakeno. Egosane.
The Honorable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to start off by recognizing the Premier for reading his statement in Cree and making history in this chamber. I would like to thank the interpreters. I would like to recognize the importance and significance of today's events in this chamber. One step in working and walking towards truth and reconciliation. Honorable Speaker, when adults bicker, children suffer. This is the harsh reality that bears witness to the purpose of Jordan's principle. Jordan River Anderson spent most of his 5 years of life in a hospital because the governments of Manitoba and Canada could not stop arguing over who should pay this boy's medical bills and needs. No child should ever be deprived of medical services or essential supports because of government neglect. But that was the case for Jordan, solely because he was a First Nations child. Jordan died in 2005 before he could experience even one day in a loving home. We have the power today to ensure that this never happens again. In honor of Jordan's principle, we as the adults must recognize our duty to always put children first. And we must ensure that First Nations children receive the care and support they need, where and when they need them. That applies to all areas of government. In recent months, however, funding for Jordan's principle has been put in jeopardy. At this very moment, Manitoba is seeing very difficult times. School division cut, hundreds of educational assistants for Indigenous children, and Northern families are being denied accommodations in Winnipeg to receive health services. This provincial government's response has been to blame the federal government, and the federal government's response has been to blame the provincial government. The adults are fighting again, and the children are suffering once again. Jordan Anderson would have been 26 this October. In his memory, we urge all governments today to not allow more children to fall through the cracks because of the adults bickering. Let's put the children first, dignity, fairness, and compassion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Tyndall Park? No, okay. So then, at this point in time, I'd like to draw the attention of all honorable members to the public gallery, where we have with us today for Spirit Bear Day, Jordan River Anderson's family, Ernest Anderson, Jordan's father, and Harriet Hart. Jordan's siblings, Jerlene Sullivan and her daughter Journey, Chastity Sullivan, Ernest Anderson's daughter, Caroline Anderson and her daughter, Mary Jane Anderson, Garland Anderson and Tony Clark and their children, Jada and Carson, Moses Anderson and his spouse, Elisa, and daughter, Zendaya, Aaron Anderson, Dale Anderson. Staff from the First Nations Caring Society, Dr. Cindy Blackstock, Brittany Matthews, Stephanie Wellman, and on behalf of all honorable members, we welcome you here today for this historic day. Now I have a leave request for the House, but before I ask for leave, I want to provide some background for all members. The Honourable Member for Waverley will be making a member statement recognizing the 80th anniversary of VE Day. As part of this, we are joined here today by many guests in the public gallery for this significant day, including 3 World War II veterans, Len Van Roon, Bob Watkins, and Percy Rosemont. I believe that their service to our country should be honored further, and that as a sign of respect by this Assembly, that these 3 veterans should be granted the privilege of being seated at the bar of the House during member statements on this significant day. Therefore, I am seeking leave of the House to allow Len Van Roon, Bob Watkins, and Percy Rosemont to be seated at the bar of the House for the duration of members' statements today. Is there leave? Leave has been granted, and I thank all honorable members. We will now take a moment to set up chairs on the floor, and once that is ready, I would ask the Sergeant-at-Arms to escort the guests into the chamber. Please be seated. The honourable member for the honourable opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I seek leave to allow a member from each party and each independent member the opportunity to address the guests in the chamber and gallery prior to their departure, immediately following the member statement from Waverley.
Is there a leave to allow each member from, or a member from other parties and independent members to make a statement immediately following the member for Waverly's member statement prior to the guests leaving the chamber. Agreed. Is there leave? Leave has been granted. The honourable member for Waverly.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today we mark Victory in Europe Day, a day that reminds us what can be accomplished when ordinary people rise to make extraordinary contributions to their country. On this day 80 years ago, the guns fell silent in Europe and the world took a collective breath of hope. We remember the courage, we remember the cost, and we remember the people who made victory possible, some of whom are here with us today. In our gallery here in the chamber, we are honored to welcome 3 Manitobans who answered the call in our nation's hour of need. Robert Watkins, who served in the Canadian Navy, guarding convoys across the Atlantic. Percy Rosamont, a mechanic in the Royal Canadian Air Force, who kept aircraft flying. And Len Van Roon, who landed in France on D-Day, who helped liberate Europe, town by town in a Sherman tank, and who still owns, and has shown me, has them here today, the boots he wore on D-Day. These men didn't ask for recognition, they just did their duty, and in doing so, they helped bend the arc of history toward freedom. Last June, with our premier, I stood on the shores of Juno Beach and spoke with veterans who had landed there in the early hours of June 6, 1944. One veteran I spoke to for quite some time. I thanked him for his service, for our freedoms, our democracy. He listened, and then he smiled, and he simply said, "You're welcome. Now make sure you enjoy it." And that moment has stayed with me, because that's what they fought for. Not only for freedom, but our chance to live it fully. So to Robert, Len, and Percy, thank you. On behalf of all Manitobans, we are here because of you, and we will remember.
The Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Speaker, 80 years ago, the world witnessed the unconditional surrender of the evil Nazi regime, the demise of Adolf Hitler, a victory in Europe, and a turning point for all of humanity. The 6 years of war in Europe, which saw millions upon millions of lives taken, homes and cities decimated, suffering of entire nations, and families broken, had finally come to an end. While the fight against fascism was not over, and its consequences continued to be felt long after the war, VE Day marked a breakthrough against cruelty and evil. This was not simply a victory for Europe, it was a triumph for all humankind, for democracy, for goodness, and for peace. We would not be here today if not for the generation of young Manitobans and Canadians who fought to make this triumph possible, with over 45,000 giving their own lives. We know the Canadian Army fought the Nazis right to the very end, including the liberation of the Netherlands on May 5th. It is the bravery, determination, and virtue of our veterans who put their lives on the line for our democracy that I am able to address you today in this chamber, Honourable Speaker. As the years go on, the opportunity to say thank you face to face to our veterans has all become more rare. It is a blessing and privilege to be joined by our guests in the chamber and to apologize to them. That myself and my colleagues will never be able to provide them what they have provided us. But as long as we stand in these hollowed walls, we owe them to never take our roles for granted, to respect our democracy, and to work for the betterment of all people. Len Van Roo, Bob Watkins, Percy Rosemont, and all the veterans here in the chamber and throughout Canada, we are forever indebted to you. Thank you.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Today on Victory in Europe Day, we take time to honor the courage, sacrifice, and service of those who fought for freedom during the Second World War. Today marks 80 years since the official surrender of all German military operations and a victory over fascism. It is a profound privilege to acknowledge the presence of three remarkable veterans in the chambers. Leonard Van Roon, whose regiment landed on Juno Beach in the first wave on D-Day, Lieutenant Commander Robert Watkins, Manitoba's oldest known living naval veteran of the Second World War, and Percy Rosemont, who served as an Air Force mechanic. Your service, bravery, and commitment helped shape the Canada that we know today. Your stories remind us of the costs of peace and the responsibility we share to uphold it. Perhaps now more than ever, it is important to recognize Canada as a free and sovereign nation and recognize the challenges still faced by many in our world. On behalf of everyone here today, I thank you and all veterans for your service, your sacrifice, and your enduring legacy. We are forever grateful.
At this point in time, I would ask that the clock be stopped, and if members wish to go and congratulate our veterans, please feel free to do so. Before we resume member statements, there's some more guests in the gallery that I'd like to introduce. We have with us today some Portuguese veterans: Pedro Correa, Carlos Oliveira, Leonel Vieira, Albino Felizardo, Antonio Caravello, Alcides de Alameda, Pedro Jorge Correa, and they are the guests of the Honourable Minister of Labour and Immigration, the Honourable Member for Notre Dame. On behalf of all honourable members, we welcome you here today. Further, we have seated in the public gallery from Springs Christian Academy 50 grade 9 to 11 students under the direction of Brad Dowler, and they are guests of the Honourable Member for St. Boniface. We welcome you all here today. We will now return to member statements. The Honourable Member for Roblin.
Today I am wearing teal in honor of World Ovarian Cancer Day. Ovarian cancer is sometimes called the silent killer because its symptoms are non-specific and there is no reliable screening test. By the time many women are diagnosed, ovarian cancer has already progressed to a late stage. Each year in Canada, over 3,000 women are diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and unfortunately more than half will not survive beyond 5 years. This topic recently hit much closer to home for me, when my very good friend and constituency assistant, Jackie Maxted, was diagnosed with ovarian cancer earlier this year. Jackie had no idea she was sick until Christmas Eve, when she was hit very suddenly with excruciating abdominal pain and ended up spending Christmas in urgent care. Waiting for appointments, waiting for results, and facing the unknown, it was an incredibly scary time for her and her family. Following blood work, an MRI, and a referral to cancer care, Jackie had a successful surgery and is now undergoing several months of chemotherapy. Luckily for all of us who know and love her, Jackie's prognosis is very good, and she's expected to make a full recovery. A nurse at Cancer Care told Jackie that she is the first person with stage 1 ovarian cancer that she's ever met, and that needs to change. We need more survivors. Recognizing her own good fortune, Jackie has already turned her incredible energy and focus towards advocacy about this disease. It was Jackie who suggested I get up in the chamber today and use my voice to amplify the need for greater awareness, earlier detection, and stronger investment in research. After all Jackie has done for me, it was the very least I could do for her to honor that request. To the advocates at Ovarian Cancer Canada, researchers and frontline healthcare workers who fight ovarian cancer alongside their patients, thank you. And to Jackie, who is watching at home, as she does every day, we are all cheering for you as you beat this disease. You've got this, and we've got you.
The Honourable Minister of Labour and Immigration.
Honourable Speaker, today I pay tribute to the Portuguese veterans of Manitoba, deeply respected elders whose steadfast service have become an integral part of the story of our province. They served bravely in regions of conflict as well as in international peacekeeping efforts. Their commitment to global peace and security has shaped the Portuguese diaspora and defined Manitoba's strong legacy of service and multiculturalism. Upon arriving in Canada, many of these veterans bore the psychological weight of their past experiences. PTSD was a silent burden, often carried alone due to limited resources, language barriers, and the deep fear of judgment. Yet, They remained steadfast in rebuilding their lives and supporting one another, and something extraordinary emerged. Through the efforts of distinguished veteran and Notre Dame community leader, Mr. Pedro Correa, the Liga dos Combatentes Nucleo of Winnipeg was brought to life. This Manitoba chapter is a beacon of support for Portuguese veterans, their families, and community. They stood up and recently added to the first Portuguese Veterans Remembrance Monument in Canada, a sacred space of reflection honoring the service of veterans, recognizing the history of the Portuguese community in Manitoba since 1958. Manitoba's Portuguese veterans represent our province nationally and globally, including the United Nations Conference on PTSD in Paris, and they continue to play an active role in Remembrance Day ceremonies, historic battle commemorations, and local initiatives such as the Historic Memorial Canada Project, an initiative that supports young Manitobans in having direct contact with a veteran during school presentations throughout Veterans Week. Portuguese veterans stand in solidarity with Indigenous veterans and contribute to calls to action aimed at building a future that honors all who have served, regardless of background, culture, or nation. To all Portuguese veterans and the members of the Liga dos Combatentes Nucleo of Winnipeg, obrigada. You have served with honor and have built a legacy of remembrance, resilience, and unity that will live on for generations in Manitoba. Thank you, merci, miigwech, and obrigada.
The honourable member for Lac du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The beauty of summer in the Lac du Bonnet constituency is like a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. With its stunning landscapes, vibrant communities, and exciting attractions, this area offers something special for everyone. Exploring the wonders of Lac du Bonnet not only provides unforgettable experiences, but also highlights the charm of the local communities and the rich heritage they embody. Victoria Beach stands out as one of the best summer spots in the region with its sandy shores and crystal clear waters. It invites families to enjoy swimming and sunbathing. The beach is perfect for picnics and relaxation, making it a popular gathering place for locals and visitors alike. Nearby, the community of Powerview Pine Falls offers access to beautiful walking trails and parks, which showcase the area's natural beauty. These outdoor spaces are ideal for hiking, biking, or just enjoying a peaceful day in nature. Lac du Bonnet itself is known for its friendly atmosphere and welcoming spirit. The local shops and restaurants serve delicious food that reflects the area's culture. Events such as the summer markets and festivals bring the community together and provide entertainment for all ages. The Winnipeg River Heritage Museum in St. George tells the story of the area's history and showcases its unique culture, making it a must-visit for anyone curious about the region's past. The communities of Tyndall and Garson add even more charm to the Lac du Bonnet constituency. Tyndall is known for its unique provincial stone, Tyndall stone, which is used in many local buildings and landmarks. This stone is not just a material, it is a symbol of the area's identity and pride. Beausejour Pinawa, the Arm of Whitemouth, the Arm of Reynolds host various events throughout the summer, allowing residents and visitors to connect and celebrate the local culture in a joyful atmosphere. Honourable Speaker, exploring these attractions will create lasting memories and foster a deeper appreciation for the wonderful communities that make up the Lac du Bonnet constituency. Embrace the magic of summer in this beautiful area and discover all it has to offer. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The honourable member for Radisson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. One cold evening after being freshly elected, I attended a film screening with my dad to support my friend MC de Natividad's film called Bumalik, which actually featured the member for Notre Dame. This film took us on a journey to rediscover what it means to be Filipino on Treaty 1 territory. It evoked real emotion and provoked inspiring conversation. One of these conversations that I had was with the host venue chef, Alan Pineda, who passionately made the case for what I'm about to share next. Since the first large wave of Filipinos migrated to Manitoba in the 1940s, we have become the province with the largest per capita population of Pinoys. We lead the country with the highest concentration of Filipinos who have chosen to call our province home, Honorable Speaker. Because we are many, we are irreplaceably woven into the fabric of Manitoba's cultural richness and economic strength. This is something realized by the work of the Mabuhay District, an intergenerational business zone that envisions a permanent cultural and economic hub for Manitoba's Filipino community. The Mabuhay District will incubate key builds like a Filipino seniors home, a National Filipino Heritage Museum as well. The project's leaders envision the Mabuhay District becoming a generational hub for belonging, community, tourism, and collective discovery. Over a year and a half later, Honorable Speaker, I am proud of the support that the Mabuhay District organizers have cultivated across Manitoba. And in the wake of the recent tragedy in Vancouver and the grief that has reminded us of the need for safe spaces, the Mabuhay District gives our community a vision in action grounded in legacy, community resilience, and collective hope. Honorable Speaker, I am thrilled to uplift the Mabuhay District for their inspiring leadership and to recommit my support to this transformative journey. Together as a community, with everybody at the table, we can make this a vision that becomes a reality within our lifetimes.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honorable Speaker, moments ago, the world's 1.3 billion Catholics were introduced to the first American pontiff, Pope Leo XIV. We want to add our congratulations and look forward to his papacy. Honorable Speaker, the Premier's letter to the Prime Minister reminded Manitobans that he just doesn't see eye to eye with them. The Premier made no mention of major infrastructure projects like the widening of Kenaston or Chief Peguis, no mention of the North End Water Treatment Plant or the Arlington Bridge. Since the Premier did not mention any of these projects to the Prime Minister, does that mean that these projects are either fully funded or that this Premier just doesn't care enough about them to even bring them up with the Prime Minister? Which one is it, Honourable Speaker?
Yeah. The Honourable First Minister.
I'd like to take this opportunity to extend a congratulatory message to all the Catholics in Manitoba who are rejoicing at the papacy of Leo. Of course, it's a significant appointment in many ways, but for those Manitobans, people of faith who work directly with the Catholic Church or people who work in interfaith initiatives, this is an important moment. And of course, all of us who have been on the journey of reconciliation recognize the significance of this as well. I want to thank the member opposite for bringing in the list of projects the PC's never built while he was in government. The difference is on this side, we build. The greatest country on earth, which is Canada, Canada, Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, Manitobans is clear by that non-answer, another non-answer by this Premier, that he doesn't even care enough to bring up major projects to the Prime Minister. It's shameful and it's embarrassing for this Premier. What else is embarrassing is that Manitoba has moved to second last in mining development in this country. So it's understandable that this Premier would take credit for a PC-started gold mine. On top of all this Premier has cancelled 14 projects in the mining sector. Is the Premier now willing to start up these projects, and which ones will he greenlit? Thank you.
The Honourable First Minister.
I want to let the people of Manitoba know that we're hard at work building the economy with you, the people who bring this economy to life each and every day. That's why I was proud to write to the Prime Minister and say we want to build a trade corridor in Manitoba to light up the West and light up the North. At the same time, we want an ag hub here in Manitoba to power that backbone of our economy. When we're talking about major infrastructure projects that involve roads, hey, the trucking corridor made the list. And of course, mining and Indigenous fair trade was also on our list of priorities. What was the priority for the members opposite in government? Well, we'll soon find out when the Conflict of Interest Commissioner delivers his report on Silica. But when it comes to mining, mining stopped in Flin Flon under their watch.
Yep.
You well know that's the most miningest community of all the mining communities in all of Mineland. What did we do on the other hand? Within 18 months, we got a new gold mine to shovels in the ground. We're building up Canada. They couldn't get it
Member's
done.
time has expired. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary.
Well, Honourable Speaker, the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce disagrees with this Premier. They quote, "The economic horse is not getting the attention it needs." End quote, Honourable Speaker. In the letter to the Prime Minister, this Premier buries within it a quote, and I quote, "new policies to fast-track our own regulation," end quote. The Premier seems to think that we are living in a democracy. He might operate his caucus that way, but he needs to bring those policies to the legislature. It is clear that this Premier is trying to dodge accountability, all while blocking the only real plan brought forward, Bill 227, the member from Midland, to remove interprovincial trade barriers that this Premier has blocked and stopped. If the Premier has new plans for policies and legislation, will he table it today for Manitoba to see?
The Honourable First Minister.
I realize the member opposite was getting worked up, perhaps a little emotional. He may not have realized what he actually just said. So I'll offer a gentle, very soft correction on the record here. This is a democracy.
That's right.
So not only do I think I'm living in a democracy, I actually am living in a democracy.
That's right.
And that's why we're knocking down the trade barriers. We're knocking down opposition to Canada being the greatest country on earth.
Yep.
The only thing that we're not knocking down is the idea that the members opposite ever contributed anything to building up Manitoba.
Never.
They closed emergency rooms.
Yep.
They never built a personal care home, and they fired people who go to work each and every day building our country's GDP. We're taking a different approach.
Yep.
We're working with you to build up Canada, and unlike him, we'll never thank Donald Trump.
There we go.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Speaker, under the PCs in 2022, unemployment was 3.9%. 2023, 4.9% to add some context, while under this NDP canoe government, unemployment has grown to over 6%. The Premier is steering this economy right towards a disaster while driving us to a recession with unemployment rising. Can the Premier tell us today how many jobs have been lost under his watch?
The Honourable First Minister.
We're adding jobs.
That's right.
We only have to look at the healthcare system, where they fired 300 nurses when he was in government. We've added, thanks to this amazing Minister of Health here in Manitoba, 600 net new nurses. And there's more. There's more people working in every industry across this great province. But if you want to go economic stat for economic stat, let's talk inflation, the number one issue when it comes to you and the economy. What was inflation under his watch in government? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, you need two hands to count it. 8%. Whoa. 8%. Since we've taken office, average inflation has been in the target range for the Bank of Canada. We had the lowest inflation rate in all of Canada because we cut the gas tax. They sat on their hands and you paid more. We got into government, we got to work, and we saved you money. When it comes to the economy, let's keep working together to build up Manitoba and build up Canada.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Speaker, we have some clear NDP math right here. He thinks that an increase to 6% is less. He thinks that job losses of over 900 to the ag sector, a 5.8% increase in unemployment is less. This NDP math just doesn't work, Honourable Speaker. 1,100 workers lost their jobs last month under this NDP. Young people are leaving this province for greener pastures to our neighboring provinces with lower taxes and more job opportunities. After 18 months, nearly 2 years under this Premier, the economy has gotten worse and unemployment has risen. Can the Premier tell us today what are unemployment levels in Parkland and North Manitoba?
The Honourable First Minister.
People are going to work again in
right.
Manitoba.
Yeah.
Under the PCs, the endangered species that was added to the list, it was the building crane.
Yeah, that's right.
We made a change to that. The building cranes, they're all over downtown. They're all over Manitoba. The building crane is returned to Manitoba, and so is working people. Here. You want to talk about the Parkland? The number one threat to the Parkland's jobs are Trump's tariffs. Yeah. That's why it's so puzzling that the PCs just chose a new leader who thanks Donald Trump. Yeah. Thank you. I would say thank you. That's a direct quote that he said for the 25% tariff threat. Yep. That is a mistake. We're taking a different approach. We're standing up to Donald Trump. Canada will never be the 51st state, and we're standing with you, the people of this great province, putting folks to work, cutting inflation, and building up our economy.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Speaker in Manitoba, the full quote is thank you, he's gone. And the next quote will be thank you, Wab Canoe is gone. Honourable Speaker.
Order. The government bench needs to come to order. I can't hear the question. I'm sure nobody else can. The Honourable. And I would remind the Honourable Leader of the Opposition that you can't use a person's name directly. You have to use their ministerial title or their constituency title. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you. This Premier will soon be gone. Parkland's unemployment is up to 11% in just 2 years under this NDP. People are fleeing Manitoba under this NDP government, and they're heading for provinces not here in Manitoba. Can the Premier tell us why over 2,500 Manitobans left this province in just the fourth quarter of 2024 under this NDP government?
The Honourable First Minister.
The member opposite wants to talk about his thank you to Donald Trump. Yeah. These are the exact words, and I quote, the 25% tariff threat, direct quote, I would say thank you. I would say thank you, end quote. Wow. That is bizarre for somebody to say right now when Manitobans are worried about their jobs, but I'll leave it to him to explain. He wants to talk about PC math. Yeah. They chose him as leader even though he got less votes than the other guy. Go ahead and explain that when you were talking about math. And when we're talking about people coming to Manitoba, go to the Whiteout Party. Yeah. People are coming here. They love it. People aren't leaving Manitoba. In fact, just think about the recent federal election. Who came to Manitoba to pay us a visit, to pay your government a visit? Mark Carney, Jagmeet Singh, and even the guy that they all voted for, Pierre Poilievre, lining up to do what we do best, work with you, the people of Manitoba, and build Canada.
The Honourable Member for Midland.
Honourable Speaker, Winnipeggers are receiving their property tax bills as we speak, and they are in for a shock. While this minister irresponsibly eliminated the 50% education property tax rebate, Winnipeg families are going to be paying more as a result. How many hardworking families will be paying more in education property taxes this year?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition was busy thanking Donald Trump for the tariffs or thanking him for interfering in our sovereignty or whatever they're trying to spin it as now, what was this team doing? We were busy working to make life more affordable in Manitobans with our recent budget announcement. We, of course, announced that we're increasing our homeowner affordability tax credit from $1,500 to $1,600 to save Manitobans more money. Of course, we know that that's going to save 80% of Manitobans more money than they saved under the previous government's approach. And of course, that's just one thing that we're doing to make life more affordable. That's one element among many others. For example, our 10% permanent cut to the gas tax. Our hydro rate freeze, which is keeping energy costs low for Manitobans.
Time has expired. The honourable member for Midland on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, that was an embarrassing answer because this minister clearly announced a tax policy without doing his homework. In a City of Winnipeg analysis in 2024, 50,000 properties in Winnipeg would have been worse off under the NDP system. Wow. I table that for the minister. That number is expected to be significantly higher this year. How many hard-working families will be paying more in education property taxes in 2025?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, we know that our approach is going to save 80% of Manitobans more money than they did under their approach. And stop. And that's, of course, the Department of Finance standing behind those numbers. And we're proud to know that we're doing that work of making life more affordable for Manitobans. That's very different than what Manitobans experienced for 7.5 years under the members opposite, when they raised costs on renters by increasing taxes on renters, when they raised hydro rates, when they raised costs on producers, our farmers, by raising Crown land leases. We know their record. Their record is clear. It's one of increasing costs. They love fuel taxes. We gave Manitobans a holiday for a year, and now a permanent 10% cut. Where they raise costs, we keep them low. That's the work we're going to keep doing for Manitobans.
Great job.
The honourable member for Midland on a final supplementary question.
The numbers don't lie, Honourable Speaker, and where this minister failed to do his homework, the City of Winnipeg did. According to City of Winnipeg Finance Chair, that number has exploded to 132,000 properties in Winnipeg. That is almost 50% of properties in Winnipeg that will be paying more under this NDP government. I table that letter for the minister. Will he stand up and apologize to those 132,000 property owners that he is targeting with his high taxes?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Let the clock run.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, again, for 7.5 years, the members opposite made life more expensive for Manitobans. And that was in addition to the other work that they focused on, which was cutting all manner of important services for Manitobans, whether it was destroying healthcare, cutting education, cutting childcare, all across government. They made cuts everywhere while they were making life more expensive and worse generally for Manitobans. What is this team doing? We're focusing on keeping your costs low. This year in our budget, 25 new ways to save for Manitobans. There you go. And that's in addition to the important work we're doing, repairing healthcare, repairing education, making Manitoba safer. Manitobans know they can count on this team to keep making life better. We're going to keep doing that work every single day.
Great job.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Tabani.
Manitobans know, Honourable Speaker, that this minister is working hard to make it less affordable here in Manitoba, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I'd like to thank Dr. Cook for doing the translation earlier today, Honourable Speaker. Yesterday, I asked the Education Minister about the Manitobans who are losing their jobs. I've also asked the Education Minister yesterday about the students who are losing their supports and the educational assistants who are losing their jobs. The Minister of Education had the nerve to say that funding was cut as a result of changes to Jordan's principle. How does this minister feel that it's appropriate to say that these jobs were cut based off of a disagreement over who pays, Honourable Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and it's a great privilege and an honour to get up on today on Spirit Bear Day in the presence of the family of Jordan River Anderson and so many incredible folks that have done the work of, it really shows, I think about this a lot in my role as an MLA. One of the greatest privileges of this role is getting to meet with folks like the family of Jordan River Anderson, who take such a terrible tragedy and a personal experience they have and turn that into advocacy and changes that have impacted our entire nation. So, on today, on Spirit Bear Day, when we're talking about Jordan's Principle, I would like to really ground us in that
Time has
work.
expired. The honourable member for Lac du Bonnet on a supplementary question.
Just yesterday, Honourable Speaker, the minister took no responsibility for anything, Honourable Speaker. Matter of fact, didn't even come close to answering the question. This minister has so much that she has to answer for. Under the NDP, Manitobans are paying record property taxes due to her funding cuts on all Manitobans. The minister wants to fight over who pays for what, and students are the ones paying the price, Honourable Speaker. That's wrong on many, many, many different levels. I asked this minister, how many EAs have been fired as a result of this minister's funding disagreements and cuts?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The truth of the matter is, on this side of the House, we know and we believe and we put into action the truth that every single child here in Manitoba deserves a right to an equal access to education. And that's exactly what we're doing on this side of the House. The Manitoba NDP, we will always be here to support all children in Manitoba, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, living on reserve or wherever they live in Manitoba. Our department, our government will be there to support all of these students. Our department and our government has been working very closely with our partners at Indigenous Services Canada, which we are happy to partner with. We are working with partners like the Southern Chiefs Organization, who I have had the great privilege of meeting with.
Time has expired. The Honourable Member for Lac du Bonnet.
Honourable Speaker, just yesterday this minister was asking me to go do her job and talk to the federal government. I have had those conversations. I'm just wanting to know when she's going to start actually doing her job, Honourable Speaker. Back in November, this minister sat on her hands and 93 educational assistants in Hanover were fired. Now, Honourable Speaker, 40 more in Swan Valley School Division for the same reason. Can the minister tell Manitobans how many more students are going to lose their educational assistance?
Order, please. The government House Leader will come to order. Honourable Member for Lac du Bonnet.
I'd like to start over, Honourable Speaker. Can the minister tell Manitobans how many more students are going to lose their educational assistance, their programming, their support?
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And let's talk about some real cuts that the Swan Valley School Division was facing. And I quote, for Swan Valley School Division, the reduction was about $240,000. Every department and area is facing cuts. The cuts are happening as follows. One school psychologist position, the junior kindergarten program, educational library assistant hours, 1.5 teaching positions, cuts to the budgets of transportation, maintenance, student services, technology, band, early years music, and physical education. Where was that reported, Honourable Speaker? In the Star and Times, in the riding of Swan Valley in 2017, under the leadership of the failed previous Minister of Education, the member for Lac du Bonnet.
Failed.
Order. The Honourable Minister of Health will come to order as well. The Honourable Member for Morton-Winkler.
Honourable Speaker, throughout Manitoba, police are having to spend large portions of their shift addressing mental health issues and calls. The Premier told local media mental health workers need to assist in such cases. How many workers have been assigned to rural Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. We're taking a whole of government approach, which is something that the previous government never took. For 7.5 years, they ignored issues that Members brought forward, whether it was policing, whether it was rural municipalities, whether it was the mayors of these different places. We're not taking that approach. We're working with municipalities. We're ensuring that they're getting the services that they need. We brought Your Way Home forward. We're getting services that folks need. As we brought forward yesterday, crime stats are coming down because we're working together alongside policing.
The honourable member for Morden Winkler on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, in Altona, Morden, Winkler, and other rural communities, local police forces feel this additional strain with every shift. When is the minister allocating additional resources for Southern Manitoba region?
The honourable minister of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness.
And again, for 7.5 years, they ignored that. On this side of the House, we're working towards hiring 100 mental health workers in this province. We're going to continue to work collaboratively across our province to ensure that municipalities, mayors, and different reefs are getting the supports that they need. Something that the previous government never did. We know that there's an addictions crisis in our province. We know that there's a mental health crisis because the previous government ignored it for 7.5 years. We're getting people the supports that they need. We're getting them housed with the supports, and we're going to continue to do that. Something the previous government never did. That's why they're on that side.
The honourable member for Morden Winkler on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, there is a 6 to 8 month waiting list to access mental health services in rural Manitoba.
That's right.
That is unacceptable and fueling this crisis. The minister promised more mental health clinicians earlier. How many new positions, and I'll ask again, how many new positions have been assigned to rural Manitoba communities?
Good question.
The honourable minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Which, Honourable Speaker, for 7.5 years, members opposite focused on closing emergency rooms. They cut services to policing. They ignored the issues. We're cleaning up their mess. It's going to take some time. We're working with municipalities. We're hiring 100 mental health workers. We're supporting people, taking them out of tents, putting them in homes. We're not going to take the approach that members opposite took. They ignored the issue. They were okay with people living in bus shacks, living in tents. They sold social housing. They sold housing under people's feet. They're holding up Bill 12. Whose house do they want to sell next?
The honourable member for Swan River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Earlier this week, I asked the minister to make public the moose surveys. He refused. There are concerns that the Duck Mountain moose population is low. Will the minister tell Manitobans today what the current population is?
The honourable minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The PCs did a terrible job of managing moose hunting here in Manitoba. For us, what are we doing? We're taking a scientific approach to be able to do that. We're doing that with concrete scientific proof. We're enhancing the moose aerial surveys, something members opposite never did, head in the sand, trying to hope that this issue went away, hoping that the population somehow came back on its own. Somehow those numbers were self-reporting. We're doing this in a concrete way with the Indigenous communities, with the Wildlife Federation, with the lodges and outfitters, because that's what Manitobans expect of a good government.
The honourable member for Swan River on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Manitobans are not happy with this minister's non-answers. The minister is suppressing data. At public meetings in Roblin and Swan River, department officials said the winter of 2023 interim hunt was authorized based on a population of 2,400 moose. Can the minister confirm that the population of 2,400 moose is a fact?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I encourage the member to maybe lean forward and tap the member for Riding Mountain on the shoulder and ask him why he was failing moose hunting across Manitoba, why he was failing the moose population here in Manitoba, why he did not engage hunters, why he did not engage Indigenous communities, why he did not engage the Wildlife Federation, why he did not engage the Manitoba Lodges and Outfitters. Each and every day, they failed. What are we going to do? We're taking a collaborative approach to be able to do this. We're doing scientific with investments all across Manitoba, and when those numbers come out, we'll share that with Manitobans, something members opposite never did.
The honourable member for Swan River.
Well, sorry to say, that was a priority when we were in government, to get those surveys to the public as soon as possible. Dr. Vince Crichton, a very respected moose biologist in the department, cautioned in 2011 for a conservation closure when the population approached 1,300. Has this signaled a potential collapse? Does the minister support Dr. Crichton's science on this threshold for a conservation closure?
The Honourable Minister, Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And the only thing that collapses their government. Because simple, each and every day, they did not engage. They did not take a true effort and did not invest in this hunting survey. They did not invest in aerial surveys across Manitoba. They did nothing but decimate the Conservation Officer Service. They did nothing but try and alienate every aspect of moose population, and they did it each and every day. So when members opposite came forward and they asked questions, they talk about advocating on behalf of hunters, advocating on behalf of Manitobans, we know very well that the fact of the matter is they're not doing that. They never did that. The doors were locked, phones went unanswered, emails went returned to sender, because that's what they did. They did not engage anybody every day.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Honorable Speaker, across our province, families are doing everything they can to support their aging loved ones. Oftentimes, people are having to leave their communities and move away from their family, friends, and the life that they have built. How does the department determine where to build new care homes, and will they share these findings with the House?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
I want to thank the member for Tyndall Park for that really important question. I appreciate that she's acknowledging that our government is building personal care homes here in Manitoba, something that didn't happen for 7.5 years under the previous PC government. The decision in terms of where personal care homes are built, that's determined by working directly with the regions, working directly with communities, working with our provincial clinical experts who help determine where community needs and pressures are that we have to alleviate. And we're going to keep doing that work in partnership, because that's how you get results for Manitobans.
A+.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park on a supplementary question.
Honorable Speaker, there are thousands of individuals here in Manitoba, from personal support workers to nurses to maintenance staff, that our long-term care systems rely on. Families are exceptionally grateful for the compassion of care workers, but are also deeply concerned about the short staffing and inconsistent care quality in long-term care facilities. Healthcare workers continue to express how stretched thin they are. This was evident from yesterday's rally. What is the minister doing to ensure care standards are being upheld as workers continue to express feeling burnt out?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
I want to thank healthcare workers working across long-term care homes across Manitoba for everything they do for Manitobans, housekeeping staff, environmental workers, nurses, healthcare aides, medical directors. We thank you for what you do. We also know that every single one of those groups of healthcare workers had their wages frozen for years by the former failed PC administration. They were treated with contempt and absolute disrespect for 7.5 long years. We know that there's work to do, more work to do, to repair that damage. We're restoring relationships with the front lines, and one of the most important things we've done is successfully ensure that they have fairly bargained agreements across different healthcare sectors. We're going to keep treating them with respect, making sure that they get fair deals moving forward, and strengthening healthcare
time has
as a
expired. The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Honorable Speaker, public trust in healthcare planning comes from transparency. People want to know that decisions are being made fairly and based on need. If this government is serious about equitable healthcare, then it must be transparent in how it's allocating resources and which regions remain underserved. Will the minister commit to publicly releasing a province-wide plan that clearly outlines where these personal care home investments are going, the data used to make these decisions, and how the government is prioritizing underserved communities, particularly those in northern and rural Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The information that the member is looking for is largely laid out in our 25-26 budget, which sees healthcare get a $1.2 billion increase to overall spending, $780 million of which is going directly for the healthcare workers who provide care at the bedside every single day. And in terms of making sure that underserved communities' needs are being met, on this side of the House, we believe that every single Manitoban, no matter who you are, how you identify, and where you come from, deserves the best healthcare possible. On that side of the House, they thank Donald Trump. They thank Donald Trump for an approach and policies that disproportionately negatively affect diverse communities and underserved communities. We won't take that approach. We believe all Manitobans and all Canadians deserve dignified, accessible healthcare that meets their needs.
The honourable member for Tuxedo. No, the honourable member for Tuxedo. The honourable member for Transcona.
Honourable Speaker, Trump's tariffs are hurting Manitoban and Canadian businesses. On this side of the House, we're fighting to protect businesses. But on that side of the House, the MLA for Fort White shamefully thanks Trump for his tariffs and refuses to apologize for doing so. He thanked Trump to win the PC leadership race, but he still lost to Wally Dowdrich. Members opposite can try to rewrite history all they want, but Manitobans know that he thanked Trump. Can the Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism remind this House what exactly the MLA for Fort White said to thank Trump for his tariffs?
The Honourable Minister, Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Honourable Speaker, all of us were shocked to hear the MLA for Fort White thank Trump for his tariffs. And because he's confused as to what exactly he said while losing the PC leadership race, I'll read the full quote to refresh his memory. Quote, Trump wants a win, and I think one of his clear wins, and a lot of Canadians' wins, was a change in federal government. He wanted JT gone, and thank God he's gone. How much of an influence did the 25% tariff threat have on that? I would say a lot, and I would say thank you. I would say thank you. He's gone now. You know what? While the PCs thank Trump on this side of the House, we'll continue to thank Manitoban businesses for supporting our Team Canada approach.
The honourable member for La Vérendrye.
Honourable Speaker, spring weather is upon us, and so should construction season. Each of us on this side of the House travel the roads that span our province each week, and we see the importance of quick and significant investment in infrastructure. Could the minister tell us the total dollar value of highway projects that are tendered and ready to go?
The Honourable Minister, Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I'm excited to get up and talk about all the work that we are doing to build up this province. It is construction season. It's come a little earlier this year, but that's like birthday season for Transportation Department. So I'm excited to say that we have over 80% of our projects have been tendered, and we are seeing a lot of building going on in this province.
The honourable member for La Vérendrye on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. That's not what we're hearing. Part of being effective is being efficient. Construction companies have delayed calling back seasonal workers. These workers will be looking for employment elsewhere, making construction more difficult later in the season. Can the minister commit to a timeline when the majority of this season's infrastructure tenders will be released?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
I thank the member opposite for that question. I want to be clear that because I'm in almost daily contact with the industry, with municipalities, with folks in the department who are doing design and engineering for our projects, I know that it's a little late in the game for his question. The industry wants what they asked for when we first came into government, something they never saw from the members opposite, was 80% of tenders released by the end of February. And that is what we've endeavored to do 2 years in a row.
The honourable member for La-Vérendrye on a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The only thing that industry is raising is the pace of this government's tendering process, and that makes sense. According to the minister's own performance measures, this year's target for the percentage of pavement that is in fair or good condition has been downgraded. Manitobans have not lowered their expectations for highway conditions, so why has this minister?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Honourable Speaker, trust me, my standards are high. The challenge that our government came into was that the previous government not only cut the transportation budget, both for capital and for maintenance, year after year, but they underspent year after year.
Order.
Not only did we spend more last year and actually spent what we budgeted, but this year we budgeted 10% more for our infrastructure, and we will spend that too.
The honourable member for Selkirk.
Honourable Speaker, last year I called on this Minister of Infrastructure to respond to a letter from the RM of St. Andrews to install basic safety upgrades at the intersections of highways 8 and 67. When will this happen?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I had several conversations with that MLA last year, so I would need to actually look back on the particular letter that he's asking about and the particular project, but I am more than happy if he wants to reach out to the office to give him the information that he needs.
The honourable member for Selkirk on a supplementary question.
The last time we spoke, she told me to check the website, and I did. And much like the answers we're getting today, it says no data. I table that for the House. If she thinks the problem is going to go away by ignoring it, it won't. We need an answer. When will that intersection get the attention it needs?
Yeah, good.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, again, one of the challenges in this role is the years and years of neglect, 7.5 years of neglect and damage under the previous government. So imagine coming into this role and understanding that there is so much work that needs to be done in this province to make up for those years of neglect. Then we work with municipalities, we work with First Nations, we work to prioritize which projects we can do first, and we move forward working with industry to build this project.
The time for oral questions has expired. Petitions. The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. On May 1st...
Order, please. If I could ask all members to either take their conversations to the loge or out in the hall. I can't hear the member that has the floor, so... Apparently nobody's listening to the speaker either. The honourable member for Brandon West.
Number one, on May 1st, 2022, Jordan Reimer, 24 years of age, was killed by an impaired driver while she was acting as a designated driver. Number two, there are two people legally culpable for her death, the impaired driver and the accomplice. The driver was charged, but the second criminal, the accomplice, has not been held accountable. Number three, A concerned citizen took the keys from the impaired driver earlier in the evening to ensure he could not drive impaired. The accomplice retrieved the keys from this citizen under false pretenses and knowingly provided the impaired driver with access to the vehicle. Number 4, the Winnipeg Police Services, WPS, investigation provided adequate evidence to meet the charging standards and recommended charges be laid against the accomplice. The Crown prosecutors declined to prosecute the accomplice. Number 5, the family of Jordan Reimer has called for the prosecution of the accomplice and that the decision to not prosecute be reviewed independently. Number 6, as recently as 2022, there is precedent to refer criminal files of decisions to not prosecute with prosecution to, not to proceed with prosecution to extra-provincial departments of justice for review. This was done with the Peter Nygaard file, which ultimately led to a reversal in the decision to not prosecute, and charges were laid. Number 7, an out-of-province review is supported by MAD Canada, MAD Winnipeg, and by Manitobans. Number 8, the family has exhausted every avenue within the existing system, and in the absence of a prescribed process, when a disagreement exists on charging standards, the only option is to request an independent out-of-province review. Number 9, in December 2024, the WPS reported an alarming number of impaired drivers in the holiday check stop program, extending criminal culpability beyond the driver to those who engage in overt actions to facilitate impaired driving will save lives. Number 10, Manitobans deserve to have confidence in the provincial government and justice systems to make decisions that achieve true justice for victims and their families. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to order an out-of-province review of the prosecutor's decision to not prosecute the accomplice in the death of Jordan Reimer. Honourable Speaker, this petition was signed by Sandra Brown, Dennis Brown, Irene Sheerantz, and many, many other fine Manitobans.
The honourable member for Lac du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, and the background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, on May 1st, 2022, Jordan Reimer, 24 years of age, was killed by an impaired driver while she was acting as a designated driver. Number 2, there are 2 people legally culpable for her death: the impaired driver and the accomplice. The driver was charged with the second criminal. The accomplice has not been held accountable. Number 3, a concerned citizen took the keys from the impaired driver earlier in the evening to ensure he could not drive impaired. The accomplice retrieved the keys from the citizen under false pretenses and knowingly provided the impaired driver with access to the vehicle. Number 4, the Winnipeg Police Services, WPS, investigation provided adequate evidence to meet the charging standard and recommended charges be laid against the accomplice. The Crown prosecutors declined to prosecute the accomplice. Number 5, the family of Jordan Reimer has called for the prosecution of the accomplice and that the decision to not prosecute be reviewed independently. Number 6, as recently as 2022, there is precedent to refer criminal files of decisions to not proceed with prosecution to extra-provincial departments of justice for review. This was done with the Peter Nygaard file, which ultimately led to a reversal in the decision to not prosecute, and charges were laid. Number 7, an out-of-province review is supported by MAD Canada, MAD Manitoba, and by Manitobans. Number 8, the family has exhausted every avenue within the existing system and, in the absence of a prescribed process when a disagreement exists on charging standards, the only option is to request an independent out-of-province review. Number 9, in December 2024, the WPS reported an alarming number of impaired drivers in the holiday check stop program. Extending criminal culpability beyond the driver to those who engage in overt actions to facilitate impaired driving will save lives. Number 10, Manitobans deserve to have confidence in the provincial government and justice systems to make decisions that achieve true justice for victims and their families. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to order an out-of-province review of the prosecutor's decision to not prosecute the accomplice in the death of Jordan Reimer. Honourable Speaker, this petition is signed by Claire Patterson, Brad Sigmiller, Rupinder Dhaliwal, and many, many more fine Manitobans. Honourable Speaker.
Seeing no further petitions, grievances, orders of the day, government business, the Honourable Government House Leader.
I would like to announce the Standing Committee on Social and Economic Development will meet Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. to consider the following: Bill 10, the Residential Tenancies Amendment Act, Bracket 2, Bill 11, the Oil and Gas Amendment Act, Bill 22, the Environment Amendment and Waste Reduction Prevention Amendment Act, Bill 25, the Public-Private Partnerships Transparency and Accountability Act, Bill 26, the Vital Statistics Amendment Act, Bill 32, the Victims of Impaired Drivers Commemoration Day Act, Commemoration of Days, Weeks, and Months Act Amendment. And Honourable Speaker, can you please resolve the committee and the House into the Committee of Supply for consideration of departmental estimates?
It has been announced that the Standing Committee on Social and Economic Development will meet on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. to consider the following: Bill 10, the Residential Tenancies Amendment Act 2, Bill 11, the Oil and Gas Amendment Act, Bill 22, the Environment Amendment and Waste Reduction Prevention Amendment Act, Bill 25, the Public-Private Partnerships Transparency and Accountability Act, Bill 26, the Vital Statistics Amendment Act, and Bill 232, the Victims of Impaired Drivers Commemoration Day Act, Commemoration of Days, Weeks, Months Act amended. And as previously announced, we will now resolve into the Committee of Supply. The Deputy Speaker will now take the chair.
Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now resume consideration of estimates for the Department of Justice. At this time, we invite ministerial and opposition staff to enter the chamber. As per Sub-Rule 77, Bracket 15, questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to resume discussions today. I'd like to start my opening question on bail reform. And my question to the Minister is, after the touted 5-point plan of bail reform that has been brought forward, statistically, have we seen a decrease in the number of people that are being kept in custody or released under this Minister's watch?
Before the Minister answers, I'll give the critic an opportunity to introduce the staff who's joined you. The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Certainly, and thank you, Honourable Chair. Joining me today is Mr. Shannon Martin, researcher for our team.
I'll give the Minister a chance to introduce staff who've joined him. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Once again, it's my pleasure to introduce Jeremy Akerstream, my Deputy Minister for the Department of Justice, as well as the ADM for Public Safety, Owen Ferguson, who I think is well known to not only to many Manitobans and many communities. He does incredible work in reaching out to folks across the province, and he's well known and well liked in all those circles, but I think even in this room. Not that there'd be any question that any of our wonderful public servants would be more liked or less liked than any others, but I think we've got agreement that Owen is second to none. So I appreciate that the member opposite is zeroing in on an important initiative that we've undertaken with regards to bail. Of course, the member opposite knows that for 7.5 years, the issue of bail was simply used as, well, I've characterized it as a political football, and I think the analogy is apt because what we saw for years under the Heather Stephenson and Brian Pallister governments, when Heather Stephenson was in fact herself the Minister of Justice, was that there was a willingness to use this issue in a way that focused solely on the actions of the federal government while taking no accountability here in the province of Manitoba. And in that way, I think it was a way to sort of pass off this political football, hope that the federal government would fumble it or fail it, and then use that as fodder to say, well, they're not doing enough, and that's why this issue continues to affect our communities. We took a different approach. In fact, we took an approach that was recommended by the National Police Federation. And the National Police Federation made a number of recommendations to governments, both the federal and provincial governments. And, the member opposite would know this. I know certainly his predecessor in this role knows it. And again, Heather Stephenson knew very well what those recommendations were, because it just so happens that I was sitting right beside her when the National Police Federation delivered those recommendations directly to her, and they did so to Premier Ford and Premier Smith, and trying to remember if it was Premier Eby at the time, but it was certainly premiers from across the country who came to say, what can we do on the issue of bail? Now, some premiers continued to do this, sort of the political football, or play with a political football, or turn this issue into a political football. And I would suggest that, the premier here in Manitoba at the time definitely did that. But we took a different approach. We said these are good recommendations, and we were going to follow them. From those recommendations, we found 5 recommendations that were applicable to the province of Manitoba that we could take action on right away. And that really spurred our action. And so not only did we continue to lobby the federal government, push them on the issue of bail, but we also started to take action here. And one of the main recommendations that the National Police Federation made was that provinces should do a better job in collecting data and then sharing that data, not only amongst law enforcement in the provinces and in the jurisdictions that they have jurisdiction over, but also with the federal government. And so what we did was we committed additional funding to make sure that information was starting to be gathered and starting to be shared in a way that's useful. Then fast forward to my time here in this role and my first federal provincial territorial meeting, sitting around the table with provinces, the federal government, and lo and behold, what does the federal government say? They say, well, we need more information. We need more of this data. And, they had to look over at Manitoba and say, why don't you all follow Manitoba's lead? Because they are starting to gather this information in a meaningful way. We've started to track it in a better way. We started to share it in a better way amongst law enforcement. And we've started to have that credibility with the federal government that's going to ultimately make a big difference when it comes to tackling this issue. Now, this is just one step, and of course, again, 5-point plan, including electronic monitoring, which the members opposite cut. But we've brought it back, and we have started to turn the tide when it comes to violent crime, when it comes to crime in our province. And, you know, this is just the beginning, because we know as we continue to take real action, not just use the federal government as a boogeyman, but in fact, keep pushing them on the issue of bail, stand with law enforcement, stand with municipalities, stand with communities to push the federal government. We're going to make a bigger difference. And so we're starting to see that difference. We're starting to get better results, and we're going to continue to push on bail, and we're going to continue to make our province safer because of it. Unlike the members opposite who just wanted to continually pass the buck. Buck stops here in my department.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair. Appreciate, again, the opportunity to continue to probe a little bit about this failed bail plan and dig a little deeper. So, in light of the many violent criminals released under this minister's watch, has he issued any additional direction to Crown attorneys since the fall of 2023? Or is he satisfied with the release of pedophiles and other violent, repeat, prolific criminals?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. You know, again, I'm appreciating that the member opposite is paying attention to the good work that we're doing. And, you know, I think we asked yesterday that maybe he wants to come out and just maybe just endorse some of these policies. Say, hey, that's great work, and you're headed in the right direction. And then, well, I mean, sure, he can always build off of those, and you know, maybe he can say sorry while he's at it about the terrible job that the Stephenson government did. Yesterday, he wanted to claim when he knocked on doors, he never endorsed any of the things that the Stephenson government did, and he certainly wasn't talking about how terrible of a job we were going to do. I don't know what he was talking about on the doorstep, but anyway, we won't spend too much time, I'm sure, there. I do think, though, it's an important issue because it is one that highlights, again, the fact that there was completely no action under the previous Stephenson government. This set of directives that was issued to our Crown attorneys was, in many ways, you know, a way for us to communicate very clearly about the seriousness with which we take the issue of bail. And of course, we know that, you know, Crown attorneys, they certainly understand the impact it has in communities. You know, this wasn't news to them or anything new, but I think it was just a way for us to communicate clearly as government that it was very, very important for us to make clear our position and our direction that we were moving in as a government, that bail was a focus, and we were going to do everything we could here in this province to keep people safe. We were also going to try to restore some of the trust that may have been lost in the justice system when, you know, when there was inaction from a provincial government, disinterest, maybe you could say. And, you know, and it was an opportunity for us to say, we're going to put additional resources, we're going to show you additional supports, and we're going to, you know, make sure that you see that bail is a focus of this government. So we did that in February of 2024. I think the last time that any kind of directive was revised was back when it was an NDP government before, so, you know, complete abdication of any responsibility by the former PC government. And we made that we made that directive, or we took that directive in February of 24. Now, his question is maybe, have we had subsequent conversations with our crowns? Absolutely. In fact, I really appreciate the meetings that I have, in a more formal sense setting. We love to have folks into to the office to talk about policy, but there's also an opportunity for me as minister to go out and travel the province and actually get to see some of our crowns out in the communities that they serve. And so, they really it really highlights to me the importance of their perspective and their care and concern for the communities, because they live in these communities. They're raising their families in these communities, and so in many cases, this is not only an important job that they do, but it's part of it's part of their identity, and it's part of the work that they want to do for everyone. And then, so I get to see them, out in the communities they work in. And then I also get an opportunity, just this morning, was at a Crown conference speaking to our Crown attorneys at the convention center here in the city of Winnipeg. And, I think we had over 100 at least. I'm not good at counting or estimating crowds, but there was over 100, I would say, of our crowns, which is great. And it was really good to get to know some of them. I spent some time before I officially brought greetings and spoke to some of the leadership, but I also spent time beforehand just having a cup of coffee and chatting with a few of the folks in the room, getting to know them a little bit better, understand a little bit of their perspectives, and it really, really does help me in understanding the kinds of work that they do and how we can support them. So when it comes down to bail, they understand the impact that lack of action from the previous government has had on the issue of bail. I think there's a recognition that we're doing more and that we want to do more. We're going to continue to take every step we can here. And then they're also probably, personally, they don't express this to me in a formal way, but they're probably feeling the same way about the federal government and their role that I am, and asking for bail reform at a national level as well.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Appreciate, again, the opportunity to ask a little bit about the concerns that Manitobans have brought forward with regards to this government's actions on bail reform. And really, we know it's not bail reform, it's bail monitoring. And the name was spun to bail reform to just try and appease Minister's mandate letter, which he's obviously failing on. So my question is, in December, Justice expanded electronic monitoring to some rural communities. So how many ankle monitors are being used here in Winnipeg as compared to what's being used in rural Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
So if I can just backtrack for the member opposite, Honourable Chair, just quickly. He was asking about bail, the number of violent offenders that were out on bail or probation, and some of those numbers in terms of the city of Winnipeg were released yesterday. So just to give him the numbers here for the record on at committee, 20.4% of violent offenders were on bail or probation in 2022. In 2023, it was 18.8% of violent offenders were on bail or probation. And now the latest numbers that we have in 2024, it's 18%. So it's about a 10% decrease in the number of repeat offenders that are on bail and probation. Of course, that's not isolated to just bail, but it's bail or probation. And again, it's just a snapshot from within the city of Winnipeg. I think there, are additional numbers and figures and facts that we can pull together, but that's gives the member opposite a bit of a snapshot of what's going on right now. I also maybe just, if I could, because I'm back on the issue of bail, is to talk a little bit about the about MVUA, the Manitoba Integrated Violent Offender Apprehension Unit, which we've got the acronym all unpacked for the member opposite this time. But I mentioned it yesterday. We talked a little bit about it. I'm happy to dig in a little bit more if we'd like to. But this is a really highly effective unit, and we really appreciate the work that they do, because they go not only in the city of Winnipeg, they go across the province, and the communities that they go into, they're incredibly effective. And the work that they do is really targeting some of these violent offenders, the repeat offenders, the prolific offenders that we've heard from so many communities are such an issue. And so I just wanted to put on the record once again that we just respect and honor the work that MVUA does on a day-to-day basis. With regards to the ankle monitoring program, now I want to caution the member opposite, just because this is a slightly moving target, in the sense that I think just earlier this week we had all 100 ankle monitors deployed, and since then that number I think has gone down. It goes up, it changes almost daily. But if he wants just the latest snapshot that we have, the latest information is 91 of the 100 monitors are deployed. 79 of those are within the city of Winnipeg. 12 are outside of the city of Winnipeg in communities, First Nations, and municipalities and cities and towns across the province. That being said, this is 91 ankle monitors more than we came into office having, because we know that Heather Stephenson, I mean, this is something that really, we have to take just a moment to note that it was actually Heather Stephenson as Justice Minister, and I just cannot understand how she could come into the office that I now get to occupy, and one of the first acts that she did, one of the first things that she did, was to say that she wanted to get rid of the ankle monitoring program and cut the program and cut its use completely in the province of Manitoba. Again, this is at a time when bail was already, people breaching their conditions on bail was already an issue, and this is a useful tool, an important tool that we can use, and she cut it. And then, time went by, and then maybe members opposite started to feel a little bit of pressure, and they thought, oh, maybe this is something they should bring back. But of course, they never did. And it was only when our government came in that we were able to bring that program back, expand it, but first of all, build it within the city of Winnipeg, and then now expand it outside of the city of Winnipeg. It's being well implemented. We know that there's going to be further demands on it because it is effective, and we know that it can make a real difference. And so we're continuing to work with communities to make sure they have the right amount of resources. The member opposite will know that's how we determine how and where we would roll this out, is where where communities had the resources to enforce the monitoring that was being taken place. But ultimately, it's about keeping people safe. It's about stopping these particular offenders from breaching their conditions, and we've seen a lot of success.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Following along on these ankle monitors, just wondering how many units are currently inactive due to tampering or breakdown, how many have been pulled out of service prior, repaired and brought back in, and how many are presently in the queue for repair?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, again, I appreciate the member opposite has a renewed interest in this program. And again, maybe this is one of the issues. He never knocked on a door and said, we shouldn't bring back the ankle monitoring program. The NDP says they're gonna bring it back, and I don't think you should vote for them because they're gonna bring back the ankle monitoring program. Maybe he never said that. Maybe he said, I'm a bit conflicted because I'm running as a PC member. My premier is the one who actually cut the program in the first place, but I've still decided to run for her and her party. Maybe he did that. I'm really not sure how he squared that circle in his own mind as he went door to door and he talked to the people of Brandon, but I guess we'll never know. All we know is that maybe he's starting to come around. He's starting to see the value of this program, and maybe privately he said before, boy, the Tories should have never cut that program. I'm not sure. Maybe he can answer that in the next set of questions. I'm sure he'll clarify for the committee and for Manitobans how he was able to come to those conclusions. That being said, I want to just clarify for the committee and for Manitobans the nature of the contract that was signed, in this case with the commissionaires, for the ankle monitoring program. This uses a really, a new set of technologies, and there's actually there's a lot of value to employing some of these new technologies. I've talked a lot about in the past about how we're not only using it for repeat offenders, for violent offenders, for folks that need that additional supervision and monitoring, but we're also using it in the cases of intimate partner violence. And it's available for those cases where we want to ensure that we're protecting victims of intimate partner violence. And the kind of technology that we're talking about allows for proximity based on GPS technology, proximity alarms and individual warnings and information that's able to be shared, in this case with victims in particular. And so the technology is there, it's available to be used in that way. And again, we wanted to make sure that was part of the suite of technology we were bringing on. I mean, these things are also incredibly high tech. The member opposite will also understand this, that it's not only the GPS capabilities, there's an alarm built into the ankle monitor, so it can make an audible sound. But then it also has two-way communication, believe it or not. So not only can it create an alarm, but somebody can actually speak through the ankle monitor to the offender, and then they can talk back. Like it's actually like a communications device. We got a chance to learn a little bit more about the technology. It was really fascinating. And as we learned a little bit about it, we understood that that this deployment is novel in the sense that novel for this province of Manitoba. It's not new in other places. This is being used in a lot of provinces. We fell behind again. Heather Stephenson cut this, so we fell behind 7.5 years. But when we got back into this technology, what we found was that these aren't owned by the province of Manitoba. These ankle monitors, that's part of the service that we've contracted with commissioners in this case, and so they provide the equipment, they provide the monitoring, and then we are able to use them in the justice system. As of right now, there are 3 ankle monitors that are not in use, that are being held for evidence or being used in evidence. So in terms of the overall pool, I don't know that I want to characterize it as we had 100 and now we have 97, because it's a program where we are contracted for the monitoring and contracted for the 100 ankle monitors that, in terms of the actual physical ankle monitors themselves, 3 are not in use or not being able to be used right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the number that are deployed throughout the province. And really, it's about the need that's out there and the opportunities to use them. As more and more knowledge is understood about the capability of these and how they can be used to keep communities safe, we expect them to be well used. And we know that this is an important way that we can keep people safe and keep communities safe.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So hearing that there's 3 ankle monitors that are out for evidentiary purposes, can the minister confirm that's because they have been tampered with?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, I'd be very cautious. The member opposite knows about commenting on any ongoing cases that are being investigated or before the courts. So I would I'll just leave it at the fact that they are being used as for evidentiary purposes right now.
The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So these 3 ankle monitors that are being used for evidentiary purposes, are the charges connected to mischief to property?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Just again, a caution to the member. As Attorney General, I'm going to err on the side of caution in this case and ensure that there's no further comment on any ongoing cases or any ongoing investigations. So we'll hopefully move on to a new line of questioning.
The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair. As the Attorney General for the province, he must know that when charges are laid, they're made public and they're publicly open data. So I would ask again, are the charges linked to mischief to property?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, I think I hear the member opposite saying that he has the information in front of him, so I'm not sure why he's asking for it. He says it's publicly available, so he's got the information there. His crack researcher, Mr. Shannon Martin, has done that work, and so he's got that in front of him. And if he wants to enlighten the committee, I know he'll do that. And I think, again, we've talked a little bit about this in the past with regards to a few different issues that the member opposite has brought forward in front of the legislature. And, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's not for me to tell him how to do his job as an MLA. It's he gets to conduct himself in whichever way he sees fit. But I think there is maybe certainly a higher standard that people expect from us as MLAs, as folks who come into this place who not only represent our constituents, and of course in that way we need to be free to ask the kinds of questions that our constituents expect of us. That is absolutely the role and the right of every member who gets elected to this place. And then on top of those duties as an MLA, there's also a duty to uphold the democratic rights of every Manitoban, to uphold the rule of law, and to very clearly communicate to our constituents what the boundaries of the law are. And again, as a member who should very well know what those boundaries are, I sometimes question the motivation of the line of questioning that and the choice of words that he uses in this place. We've heard him say in the House, for instance, that he believes that the Attorney General of the province of Manitoba individually releases people from jail or from custody, or makes determinations about charges that would be laid. And he knows that's not true. He knows that that's inflammatory. He knows that that's actually damaging to our democratic system. And so once again, with respect, I've laid out a fairly clear boundary that, I think as Attorney General is very clear here, and with regards to ongoing cases, ongoing charges, ongoing investigations, that I'm not prepared to risk any comment that would influence or impact any case. I'm being as straight up as I can with the member opposite. He knows that, he understands the role, and then he still continues to go down that path. Now he shakes his head. He doesn't understand the role, and I really question then what he did as not only as a Brandon police officer for a couple of years and as the chief of police, I think, at one point too. Like, this was his job, and he's saying he doesn't understand the law. That is very concerning, and I just think it just doesn't pass the sniff test. I think it actually calls into question his motivations more broadly, what he's willing to say and what he's willing to do to, I guess, score a political point here in the afternoon on a beautiful Thursday afternoon when we're trying to get some answers to questions that are posed. So I'm happy to go through the details. I believe very strongly in the ankle monitoring program. I really do. Members opposite know I've been talking about this since long before I was granted the privilege of being the Minister of Justice. I believe that this is an incredible tool. I think that it was wrong to be cut by the previous government. I think they really should have continued to enhance and build off of the program, not cut it. I do believe that can make a difference in making communities safer. And, member opposite can disagree with that. But to then question, and I'm happy to answer all the questions he has, I'm being pretty clear here about what I'm willing to comment on and what I'm not. I hope the member opposite will take his duty as an MLA, as a former law enforcement officer, very seriously. Tell the people of Manitoba the truth, and make sure that they're always the truth is the cornerstone of what we do here.
Thank you, Minister. A gentle reminder to all members that staff shouldn't be brought into the debate. And with that, the honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair, and I'm happy to tell the Manitobans the truth, and the truth is even this minister's premier has said when they make it personal, they're losing, and that's what's happening here, and what we're witnessing is that this minister is actually losing his composure and his ability to answer the questions. We know that the questions are coming from the MLA for Brandon West and the Critic for Justice. It's his role to ask these questions and to get answers for Manitobans when $2.6 or $2.9 million has been invested into a program. Manitobans deserve to know. And when the Minister of Justice hides behind a veiled privilege that's really not there because this is public information. I can't help that he's spent a lifetime as a bureaucrat and doesn't understand the law and has to ask questions and doesn't understand the answers and doesn't understand his role as the Attorney General and uses that. So I just wanted Manitobans to know the truth about what's happening here. It's dodging, deflecting, and really not looking at answering any of the questions that are posed to him. People in Manitoba are asking about the faults in some of these bracelets, and obviously that's not coming from this minister, so I'll move on to the next one. The minister noted that 24/7 monitoring of these ankle bracelets includes real-time voice detection through the device, and my question is, how is this relayed to the offender? He mentioned that it's under contract with the commissionaires, but is this monitored 24/7? Is it live voice, or does it utilize an AI?
Before I go on to the minister, I'll just remind all members that strongly encouraging other members to tell the truth implies that they may not be telling the truth, which is also lying, which is unparliamentary. Learning opportunity for everyone in the room. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Good reminder. And, I think, I think what it speaks to is the fact that this is an unserious member of the legislature, someone who doesn't want to take his role seriously, doesn't want to learn, doesn't want to respect the role and the rules of how we should conduct ourselves as MLAs. The only advice that I'll give him, and this is honest and serious advice that, I think he would be wise to take, and that is that, the people of Manitoba spoke loud and clear about their opinions of Heather Stephenson and about the previous government. That's not up for debate. There's no question about that. That's the reason why we sit on this side of the House and the members opposite sit on that side of the House. That's just the way it is. That's democracy. And, whether we like it or not, that is how our system rewards the good work of one group of people or good ideas of one group of people, and punishes, in a way, if you can characterize it that way, another set of ideas. And we can go through all of those ideas. I'd be happy to. I think we can take some time later on to talk about all the bad ideas that we've seen coming from the members opposite. But what should be sacrosanct, what should be above reproach, what should be beyond any of the questioning within this place is that once that decision is made, that we take the roles that we have very seriously, and we do them in the kind of way that respects the institution of this legislature and respects the democratic process. And there will come a day, I'm telling the member opposite right now, there will come a day when the NDP government will be voted out of office. Now, that might be in 2035, or it might be in 2042, or I don't know what year that would be. Year 2100, maybe I hear, maybe as some other members are suggesting. I don't know. The reality is that at that point, they're going to want members opposite to do their job in a serious way, to take their role very seriously. And that's not what we're seeing here today, and that's a shame. I think it is important for us to to take the facts as they come, to make sure that we're clear. The member opposite has talked about the amount of money that's been spent on the program. To date, we've spent $445,000 in monitoring. As I said, those folks in community with our ankle monitoring technology. And we're making sure that it's being done in a responsible and a respectful way. The total commitment is over a period of time. We're going to continue to work with commissionaires to implement the best technology that they have available to them. But at this point, that's real human beings who are watching other real human beings, and it's live monitoring. I did talk about how it was 24/7. The voice communication, two-way voice communication, is being done by real people and by live operators who do really important work, because they're able to monitor sort of the overall picture across the province, and they have direct contact with law enforcement, so we know that they can get the resources there if needed very quickly. And so, we can talk a little bit more about the use of AI more broadly and generally in the justice space. We know that we've been deploying more and more cameras. Of course, we're funding cameras not only for individual use through our secure home security rebate. We're also empowering communities who want to use CCTV or cameras in their communities. There's a lot of ways that there's more and more information that's coming in to law enforcement and to the justice system more broadly. Now, some of those questions might be better posed to the Minister for Mint. So again, we know acronyms, and sometimes Innovation and new technology. The M stands for Manitoba, so it's Manitoba in innovation and new technology. But we've got a very capable minister who's taking a very close look at AI more broadly in Manitoba. We're working very closely with him to understand the implications in the justice system as well. And so I'm happy to have that conversation in whatever way we can here. But ultimately, it's the good technology that we have to deploy. Again, through an investment that was cut under the previous government, we've now reinstated it. We know that we're catching up with other provinces, and we're going to make a difference in communities by making them safer.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair, and I appreciate the minister sharing with me his advice about respect within this chamber and decorum, and you know, it would be important if that was followed by the minister. And actually, I can quote the Speaker of the House who chastised the Minister of Justice, saying that the Honourable Minister of Justice does not have a point of order, but I do look forward to him following his own advice in the future about decorum. It's the same Speaker of our House that has actually made mention of the unprofessional behavior of this minister during times when we were in this House, and the belittling of other members, and thrice now been called out for accusing me of lying, and I appreciate that. So I do hope, as the Speaker suggested back on April 14th, I do hope that the minister takes his own advice and brings that decorum back and doesn't accuse other members of falsehood and really diminish the People's House and what Manitobans expect here for professionalism. And I understand he's never had the opportunity for the same sort of level of decorum training and you know, professionalism that many others are afforded. So you know, again, I hope that that opportunity avails itself. Moving forward, hate crimes are on the rise, especially anti-Semitism. And I appreciate the creation of a hate crimes working group comprised of Crown attorneys. So I have a few questions under the hate crimes that are happening here in Manitoba. How many Crowns are specifically assigned to this? Is this a permanent placement, or do these Crowns work on other files? And then how many hate crime investigations did the working group participate in, and how many successful prosecutions have occurred?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, I appreciate the line of questioning from the member opposite, I know he's read our public safety strategy, cover to cover a few times. Probably it's right beside his bed. He reads it every night. But it's one of the areas that we specifically talked about focusing on in that public safety strategy. Was the commitment to assign a lead for specializing for our crown to assign a lead from our crowns specifically for prosecution of hate crimes. And the overall team that we're talking about here is about 10 members of our prosecutors. These are, again, we have a lead prosecutor, but then we have senior prosecutors who are assigned to this group. They are not only do the work on a day-to-day basis, but they're committed to additional training and making sure that they are, well informed about this particular space, ensuring that they have the tools that they need, and then of course they work with our law enforcement. They work with WPS. They work with others in Winnipeg, in the city of Winnipeg. Again, we have the stats very hot off the press, very fresh here. In 2024, there were 44 cases of hate-motivated crimes in the city of Winnipeg. I know that there are some that happen outside of the city of Winnipeg, and if there's any particular case that the member opposite is interested in, or in terms of numbers, which communities, we can certainly try to find that. But with regards to what we see in the city of Winnipeg, that's the bulk of what we've seen. And we know that this is something that we need to continue to be vigilant on. We know some of the biggest threats that have happened have been against the Jewish community, and the rise of anti-Semitism in other places certainly gives us pause. And we need to be vigilant here in the city of Winnipeg and in the province of Manitoba that we don't allow this kind of hate to take hold. The member opposite may be asking a little bit about a recent high-profile case where we worked with the federal government on terrorism charges, and ensuring that we were taking this very seriously to ensure that we had all the information about any links outside of the province and the motivations that were part of that. This is the kind of work that we know that our prosecutor is going to be able to undertake. And I'll also just mention that the federal government has started to pay a little bit more attention to this issue. The Minister of Innovation and New Technology recently traveled on behalf of the provincial government out to Ottawa to talk with his counterparts and with colleagues about the federal government's role in stopping hate and in ensuring that we do what we can. And so there's a lot of work that's being done, and the commitment that we have from our government is really that, as I said, it's about vigilance. It's about taking the action that we can to ensure that we're working with communities, we're keeping people safe, we're giving them the confidence that we're going to shut this down. And this our work of our Crown Prosecutor in this case, and all the team are really invaluable in that work. And so I talked a little bit earlier about how I had an opportunity to talk to our Crown Prosecutors this morning at a conference, and I expressed to them directly, individually, and then publicly at that event, my thanks for the work that they do. But I'll say it here too, on the record in the House and in the Chamber, just to be very clear about how much we appreciate their work, and that goes throughout the entire team. But of course, as we're talking specifically about this this hate crimes prosecutor and the team that we have working on this. We cannot thank them enough for doing this extra work, having learning and having the tools available to them. We know that they're going to continue to work and support community, make sure that we're stamping out hate every opportunity that we get.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. And just continuing on with that question, because I didn't get it fully answered, the community will certainly have confidence in this and will appreciate this when they see some tangible results. And, tangible results in this case are successful prosecutions. So of the 44 cases that the minister mentioned, how many have been successfully prosecuted? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. And I think maybe part of the challenge that we're having with this particular question is around the exact language that's being used here, successfully prosecuted. So I had a chance to put on the record for the member opposite about the 44 charges that were brought in by those identified by the WPS in 2024, and I think it's worth noting at this point, like many of the stats that we've been working with, that we've been analyzing over the past number of days, this is another area where we saw growth. We saw the crime rate go up when it comes to hate-motivated crimes under the PC government. So last year was 46. That's 2023, so the year before the stats that we're looking at here. So the last year of the PC government, it was 46. And so now we're starting to see that number come down. Prior to that, there was, of course, a COVID year, but it was on the rise otherwise, going up every single year. And, you know, we know that this is a real issue. And of course, what we did in identifying a lead prosecutor, assigning them to this file was, you know, it's a step in the right direction. It created capacity. It created more resources for law enforcement, for the overall prosecutions team to look at these in the, you know, in an important way to have to make a difference in bringing that number down. So, you know, we're going to see hopefully that number continue to come down because of increased investments and increased support for law enforcement and as I said, for our prosecutors in this case. What I can say is that, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, if he's talking about, you know, stamping out hate and stopping these crimes from happening, that we're on the same page with regards to that. That is exactly why we know that additional enforcement and additional resources to be able to react and act when it comes to hate crimes is done by law enforcement. That comes with, you know, funding and with support directly to law enforcement. But again, we can't discount the importance of having the resource of the lead prosecutor and the team that they've assembled to be able to look at these cases and give the best advice possible as we're as police are laying charges and we're you know, taking the cases forward. This is, you know, there's a number of cases that we can talk about, horrendous and terrible things that have happened to many different groups. I think maybe the member opposite is referencing, you know, issues we've seen even in the city of Brandon, right, which is otherwise an amazing place, a welcoming place, right? It's a place where there's folks from so many different backgrounds and so many you know, different perspectives in that city, and you know, my experience has been that everyone is welcomed in such a positive way. That's why I think the city of Brandon is growing and is seeing such success, is because of their acceptance of newcomers and of all people from all different parts of Canada and all different parts of the world. But we also know that there's been also even in the city of Brandon, there's been cases where serious assaults have taken place, where you know, it's sometimes involving youth, and you know, these are hate-motivated instances that are incredibly concerning. And so that's why it's important for us to refocus our efforts on this. You know, for 7.5 years, the issue was ignored. It wasn't acted on. This was a step that we could take. We could build our Crown prosecution capacity. We could add Crown prosecutors. You know, member opposite know we added 35 new Crowns, and you know, and then give them the tools and the expertise that they need and the opportunity to do this kind of work in a meaningful way that we know is going to ultimately make a big difference. So, you know, he talks about successfully prosecuted. Again, maybe he wants to spend some time explaining exactly what he means by successfully prosecuted. But what we will say is we want to stop this crime, and that's the focus that we've been taking with this investment.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Successfully prosecuted, being brought before a judge or a justice and either being found guilty or sentenced for a crime would be a good start to evaluate successful prosecutions. I would also consider if there was some sort of sanctions brought against individual.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Pardon me, Honourable Chair. You know, I think I just want to pick up on where maybe where I left off with regards to you know, cases that we've seen in the province of Manitoba that give folks pause, and you know, we don't need to talk too much about the details, but I think you know, I talked about a case in the city of Brandon involving youth and a very serious assault that took place, and in that case, that was you know, deemed to be motivated by somebody's skin color in that case, right? You know, again, that is just no way reflective of the people that of Brandon, right? That's exactly the kind of thing that I know that they want to see stopped and stamped out. We talked about earlier about the impact of anti-Semitism and the impact in the Jewish community. And, you know, I don't need to tell members opposite about not only the high-profile cases, because those have made lots of headlines, and I think people are confident that the investments that we've made, that our prosecutors are doing amazing work with regards to reacting very swiftly to these kinds of cases and prosecuting them to the fullest. But I also wanted to just mention, I mean, these are important, and you know, but they're not. It's not the only cases that we see, because we know in a province where we, you know, we have so many of our folks in this province are Indigenous, and they are, you know, we are ground zero for the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls epidemic. They, you know, there's a renewed focus from our government in supporting the community, but we also know that there have been cases where the motivation, the hate motivation, is against Indigenous women. And so we were talking about a case just recently where the hate motivation factor was considered in the sentencing of an individual. These are hateful comments against Indigenous women and Indigenous females. They were able to use that as an aggregating factor in the sentencing of that individual, and that resulted in a 32-month sentence, right? And so this is an example of where you know, the rubber meets the road, so to speak, of how the work that we do can actually make a difference in how our prosecutors handle a case, and in this case, when it comes to sentencing. And I think that's maybe the point that I think is important to note here, because whether we're talking about sentencing, we're talking about diversion programs or other opportunities, we need to have a very clear picture as to again, the motivation of those of the individual when it comes to hate crimes. And so it's not always necessarily in the laying of the charges, the initial laying of the charges, but it's also about the sentencing. And, you know, this is where the breadth of knowledge that the lead prosecutor will bring as, you know, as our lead to the team, but also all the support that they have, you know, from those, from that group. That, I think, is where we're going to see the strength come from, and the ability to be a leader in the country. You know, we're setting precedents here, so this is our opportunity to lead the nation in some of these cases, and to make a real difference. You know, this is you know, anything from uttering threats to racist comments, white supremacy. I mean, you know, it just boggles my mind that this kind of stuff can exist in a beautiful province like Manitoba, where I think most people are so good and so kind-hearted. so accepting of one another that this is the kind of stuff that still exists out there. So we need to do everything we can to stamp that out, and that's why we're continuing to take action. This is real investments. It's going to make a real difference, and it's the kind of step that ultimately wasn't taken before under the previous government. But we're going to take action. We're going to get it done.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and different question here. Just wondering, the Minister has indicated a significant amount of video data is being turned over to the Department of Justice from municipalities, from individual homeowners, obviously well aware of this with the camera initiative. We hear regularly from people about data breaches and cyber crimes. My question to the Minister is, how is this data stored? And more importantly, what safeguards are in place to protect this data and ensure that the integrity of the data is kept intact?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. It's an important line of questioning that the member opposite is bringing forward, and it is one that is a new and emerging area that I think all of us are very conscious of, and ensuring that the work is being done. And you know, to the Premier's credit, to our government's credit, the fact that the Department of Innovation and New Technology has been established is, I think, really a nation-leading initiative. I think it's really quite forward-looking, because we recognize that this is an area, as we're going to talk about now, that impacts the Justice Department and the sort of public safety space. It's certainly not unique to that space, and to take that kind of whole of government approach to sort of look across government about the impact of cybersecurity, of technology more broadly, and then of course the member opposite earlier talked about AI and certain tools that are being used. By having one minister who's now laser focused on that, on the emerging technologies. And the member opposite will note I did say laser focus just for his benefit, because I know he loves that phrase so much. So the member opposite will appreciate that the Minister for Mint is in a very important role. He's doing a good job, and I'm not sure when he's up in the process. But I would suggest that if the member opposite wants to close off the justice estimates, we can move on, and maybe Mint is in here right away, and he can ask this exact same question of the member for or the Minister for Innovation and New Technology. But I'm not sure where he is in the rotation, so maybe it's not quite right after us. But that being said, it's an important issue, and one that right now we're taking very seriously within the Department of Justice. And so we have some legacy systems, we have some new technologies that we're rolling out and that we're using, but the scale and the volume of the information that's being gathered and shared is now, exponentially larger than it was even, if I could say, probably a year ago, and certainly 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and we can continue on. So that's why it's important that we continue to keep the communication open. We've been in active conversation, of course. So I think he's identifying maybe a few different elements, and I'm not sure exactly which one he wants to pursue. But if we're talking about circumstances or situations where municipalities are gathering information themselves, where private individuals are gathering information themselves, those are systems that they have control over, and then they would be responsible for. Again, a different minister might be able to answer a little bit more about what some municipalities are doing versus others. When it comes to other law enforcement agencies, whether that's the WPS or whether that's law enforcement in communities across the province, they have their own systems that they've been scaling up, and they're hitting now that critical point where the information that's being gathered is much more complex and needs to be shared in a different way and needs to be parsed in a different way. Maybe I've already mentioned it, but just to say that the RCMP, of course, is on this path as well. And so we're starting to see all of these different data sets that are now coming forward and coming to us, and we can do what we can do in our on our side with regards to digital evidence management. But what we know is that now it's time to take that to the next level. And so, additional funding has been allocated. Of course, under the previous government, they I've said this a few times privately, I'm not sure, maybe even to the member opposite, but I came into the office, I heard technology is going to be one of the main things that we talk about in our department because of the new emerging technologies that are coming out. And I was told that nothing was done. I was coming into a space where there was no work, no funding, no commitment whatsoever to advancing us, none at all. And the member opposite is shocked. He's sitting very close to where the former Justice Minister was sat, so maybe he can ask him next time he sees him. Because I really think this is an area we need to focus on. That's why we're putting more funding towards this, and we're going to continue to work with our law enforcement partners.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair, and continuing on with my questioning here process, more of a comment as I'm wrapping up here. I won't have any further questions, but I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Deputy Minister Ankerstream and Assistant Deputy Minister Ferguson for their time and their expertise, and I know the assistance that they provided the Minister bringing answers forward. Again, thank you very much. I'd like to thank Mr. Shannon Martin for being here and assisting in the process, and of course, Honourable Chair, yourself for monitoring the situation and ensuring that it went without any pause. So at this time, I have no further questions.
Seeing no further questions, we'll move to the passing the resolutions. Resolution 4.2, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $73,322,000 for justice Crown Law for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 4.3, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $4,655,000 for Justice Legislative Council for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 4.4, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $271,339,000 for Justice Correctional Services for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 4.5, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $89,178,000 for Justice Courts for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 4.6, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $354,534,000 for Justice Public Safety for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 4.7, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $2,667,000 for Justice Capital Assets for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. For the information of the committee, there are no monies allocated for Resolution 4.8 this year, so there does not need to be a vote on this resolution. The last item to be considered for the estimates of this department is item 4.1 bracket A, the minister's salary contained in Resolution 4.1. The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair, and in regards to this line item, of course, Manitobans are concerned. Manitobans are fearful for their safety. Manitobans have reached out many times. We can look at the paper or news articles just today alone, and there's 10 or 12 significant events on the safety of Manitobans here in the city of Winnipeg. I know just recently this week, an individual at the Brandon Correctional Center, an officer was attacked and stabbed by an inmate. The number of cases of assaults on officers has increased under this minister's watch, and we've seen that reported statistically from the Winnipeg Police Service on their annual report. We're seeing disrespect for officers and for guards and for people within the justice system and the public. And we're seeing this by not only words but the actions that people are taking in the community. McGregor was a prime example where there is a lack of resources being provided by this minister for rural crime. People are getting robbed on their home is supposed to be their castle. That's where they're supposed to be safe. And we have people attending there using firearms and causing serious harm and serious concerns within the community. We have to look at Thompson, where an individual took a firearm out and shot at the hospital, and the attack last week of a nurse in the Brandon Regional Health Center, where she was choked and spat on and nearly stabbed. So with these grave concerns and on behalf of Manitobans, I move that line item 4.1A be amended so that the Minister of Justice's salary be reduced to $1.
It has been moved by the Honourable Member for Brandon West that line item 4.1 bracket A be amended so that the Minister of Justice salary be reduced to $1. The motion is in order. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, I won't comment on the motion itself and the determination of my salary. I'll leave that to the will of the committee. And if they so decide that my salary should be reduced, then so be it. But I do just want to take a quick opportunity to put on the record the member opposite started with regards to talking about one of our justice employees, one of our corrections officers who was recently stabbed out in Brandon. We had a chance to, the member opposite and I had a chance to chat a little bit about this incident. It's very, very concerning, and I understand that BPS is engaged, is doing an investigation in this case, and of course within the department we're doing the work necessary to comply with the further investigation, but also steps that we can take to make sure that our inmates and of course our employees, our justice staff, our corrections workers, and the public who are in the building are all safe as well. I also just want to put on the record that I had a chance to talk to the officer today too, and it sounds like he's on the mend, which is, I think everyone is very, very relieved to hear. But it's a very scary situation, and it's very concerning that this took place in the first place, and so all of our thoughts are with his family. I also just want to mention, the member opposite talked a little bit about the safety of officers more generally. And, part of this starts right at the very top. And I was so very, very proud to be with the Premier at the announcement that was held by the Winnipeg Police Service with regards to the search for the remains at Prairie Green landfill that ultimately ended up being successful, and that ultimately led us to then find out about Buffalo Woman and her identity. And the words that the Premier spoke, I'm not sure if the member opposite has had a chance to see those remarks, but it might be worth digging up out of the archives, because it's really touching. The Premier talked very specifically at that press conference about his steadfast support for law enforcement, his belief that law enforcement is an integral part of the public safety solution. And then talked about rebuilding the relationship between all people of Manitoba and law enforcement, but specifically the Indigenous community. Some who in the Indigenous community have felt that relationship hasn't been strong. And the Premier spoke, and then the new Chief of Police from the Winnipeg Police Service also spoke. And he echoed that same sentiment. He committed himself to rebuilding that trust and rebuilding that understanding of the importance of true reconciliation for everyone in this province. I thought it was really not only touching and poignant, but also the kind of message that is so important today in our province. It's a message of unity. It's a message about respecting the role of law enforcement, respecting them in a way that, you know, is fundamentally the job that we do here comes down to funding, comes down to action, and we've shown that as a government. But also helping to understand Manitoba, for Manitobans, helping them to understand how they can be a part of the solution as well, empowering them to take back the streets, take control of their communities, and to make a difference when it comes to making their communities safer. And I believe that's where Manitobans are at. They want to see us come together. They want to see unity. And I believe that if we take that as our guiding light, we're always going to disagree about the details and about how we implement some of these things. And, you know, we've got a big binder here of lots of very specific policies that I hope we'll dig into, not just in this process, but, you know, every day in this legislature. We can disagree about the details, but I hope that we can come together. We can drop some of the rhetoric comes out of the U.S., comes out of maybe, you know, certain parts of society. I think that if we drop that stuff and if we get back to the basics, the people of Manitoba ultimately, like I said, maybe in, you know, the year 2100, they'll decide it's not an NDP government anymore. But we'll leave that to them. In the meantime, we should work together where we can, and we should make the province safer. And so that's the work I'm committed to.
Seeing no further speakers, is the committee ready for the question? Shall the motion pass? Yes. I hear a no. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. In my opinion, the nays have it.
Motion accordingly defeated, and then you know quickly we've got 10 seconds.
Motion accordingly defeated. Moving on to resolution 4.1, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $66,921,000 for justice, corporate, and strategic services for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates of the Department of Justice. The next set of estimates to be considered by this section is for the Department of... It's 5 o'clock. Committee rise. Call on the Speaker. The hour being 5 o'clock, this House is adjourned and stands adjourned until 1:30 p.m. next Monday.